2:10 in the morning, quiet street. He slips inside, hits the kitchen, and grabs a blade. Upstairs, his wife is out cold. Their 3-year-old is right there. The toddler is in the next room. He bursts in, and the screaming starts instantly. He's pinning Michaela, shredding her neck. Julie and Casey hear the noise and bolt upstairs. It's already over. Julie jumps in, trips, and he turns his rage on her. Total overkill. Casey gets sliced but manages to scramble out the door. Julie crawls for the exit but dies on the stairs. He grabs the girl and vanishes. Minutes later, Saktiviv catches him wandering the streets. Drenched in blood and holding a blade, he walks up to a friend and says, "See it, I'd do it." He planned this, left a note saying the knife was good to go. But how did it get to this point? Stay with me for a second, guys. I want to know where you're tuning in from. Drop your city and the time in the comments. Thanks for hanging out. Post that comment, and we'll get back to the story. Cops in Thame get a frantic 911 call about a bloodbath at Iron Court. My neighbor, he's killing her, and the kids are right there. I can't stop shaking. He's just destroying her next door. When the cops showed up, they walked into a slaughterhouse. Michaela Hall's story started back of February of 1983. She was Julie's whole world. They were like two peas in a pod. Julie raised her alone, working her tail off to give her a shot. Michaela grew up bubbly and popular, always surrounded by her crew. She married a local guy, but things went south, and they split. The divorce hit her hard. She was really struggling to pick up the pieces. To clear their heads, they hit Turkey. That's where Julie met her husband, Metin. They tied the knot in 2002, and he moved to Oxford to start a life with his new family. 5 years later, Michaela goes back and meets a resort waiter named Ensar. It was a whirlwind. She was hooked and kept flying back to see him. Then she finds out she's pregnant back home. She was all in. She wanted this family more than anything. They did the long-distance thing until their daughter arrived in 2008. Weeks later, she's pregnant again. Their son followed the next year. Being a mom was her entire identity. Those kids were her everything. Grandma Julie was obsessed too, always keeping a watchful eye on them. But then Ensar's mask slipped. The guy turned into a total control freak. He dictated every move she made whenever she visited him, even from across the ocean. He was breathing down her neck. She just wanted a father for her kids, hoping he'd move and change. Being a working mom was brutal, and money was tight, but she was obsessed, blowing every dime on flights to see him. He hated the kids. He wanted her all to himself. No distractions. He played her for a fool, draining her bank account. She was even mailing him expensive gifts from receipts. To him, she was just a paycheck. He was sleeping around the whole time. Things turned physical when she took the kids to Turkey to visit. Julie tagged along to watch the grandkids at the hotel. They came back late and started screaming at each other in the kitchen. She told him to shut up before he woke the babies. He just snapped and swung. Julie jumped in to block him, but he shoved her off and nailed my daily way. Julie saw the look in his eyes. Pure, cold-blooded murder. She'd had a bad vibe for years, but that moment confirmed it. Even with all that drama, Michaela kept hoping that bringing him to England with her and the kids would finally fix their brokenness. It backfired completely. Ensar had skipped out on his mandatory army stint in Turkey, so the government blocked his move until he served his time. Michaela burned through a ton of cash, trying to find a loophole to get him over sooner. He eventually sucked it up and enlisted just to get that visa. But the resentment started brewing right there. He blamed her for the whole military ordeal, even though she had zero say in how his country's laws worked. In December 2010, while still in uniform, he dumped her out of the blue. No talk, no reasons, just gawk. Michaela was a total wreck. She reached out to an old flame in Turkey and hopped on a plane just to see him. Later on, she called it a huge mistake, feeling like she should have been fighting for Ensar instead of running to someone else. Back in the United Kingdom, she panicked and begged her inner circle to scrub every text and call log with the. She was terrified that if Ensar got wind of it, he would absolutely snap. A few days later, Ensar rings her up acting like they never even split. They decided to give it another shot. Her crew told her she was crazy and to walk away, but she went against her better judgment. In March 2011, she flew out and they tied the knot. Her daughter, Julie, flat out refused to be there. Michaela kept the wedding on the low. and her friends only found out when Julie posted a congratulations on Facebook. Once she was back in Britain, she started grinding on the paperwork to get her new husband his legal status. But the peace didn't last. He found out about her secret trip to see the ex, and he went nuclear. The verbal abuse got nasty fast. He would berate her until she broke down, and her friends had told say he spoke to her. They told her this wasn't normal, and he had no right to treat her like trash. He was stalking her phone, even calling her 26 times in one night. By August 2011, she was spiraling into a dark place. A close friend mentioned she even think out ending it all. Her girl told her to just kill the power on her phone and ignore him for a while. The next day, the visa cleared, and Ensar Gaul grabbed his bags, hopped a flight from Turkey, and touched down in the night at Kinki. He crashed at the house in Thame, Oxfordshire, where Michaela lived with her kids and Lee her parents. The air got thick with tension instantly. Julie loathed Ensar, and he couldn't stand the tight bond between the mother and daughter. Everyone around Michaela could see he was a total control freak and a straight-up abuser. He even told one of her friends, point blank, that Michaela would always belong to him. Living under Julie's roof while hating her guts was eating him alive. That hunger for payback over her seeing the ex, even though he was the one who dumped her, was one who dumped her. This wasn't some snap decision. It was a slow burn, a heavy pressure building up inside him day. His head was a mess of jealousy and control. During a chat with Met, Ensar casually mentioned he wanted to murder Michaela. He said it straight up, but Met figured he was just venting. He did think for a second the guys. It sounded like typical angry talk at the time. Then, one morning, Michaela called a friend, sounding absolutely paralyzed with fear. She said Ensar threatened to take her head off if she walked through the door. This wasn't just some lover spat. It was a cold, direct threat that left a heavy, dangerous vibe in the air. Only 2 weeks after he landed in England, they bought him a one-way ticket back to Turkey to get out. It was supposed to be the end of the nightmare, but Michaela was falling apart over the breakup. Even after all the hell he put her through, she was still begging him for one last chance to save their marriage. You could tell she still had hope, crazy as it sounds. But on the way to the airport, he bailed and went back town. It was a total curveball. He refused to leave, and just like that, the danger level spiked right back up. On September 2nd, he spent the night with some woman he met at a local pub. He didn't give a damn about his wife or his vows. This wasn't a slip-up. It was a middle finger's marriage. It was clear he was totally checked out and didn't care about any kind of commitment anymore. The cracks in his story were showing. The very next day, September 3rd, he met up with that same woman again. He was already stuck in a pattern, repeating exactly what he had done the night before. He was hitting the bottle hard, making his mental state even more of a ticking time bomb. He even blew off his shift at Prezzo, the local Italian spot. He was done playing by the rules and just everything go. September 4th, around 1:15 in the morning, he hits up a late-night food spot where he's working. It's that dead time of night when anyone out on the street looks suspicious. He walks right up and drops a question that might have sounded normal, but in light of what went down next, it's absolutely bone-chilling. If something happens to Michaela and Julie, who's gonna take the kids? His friend just figure, and talking out of his head. Back then, it didn't seem like a big deal. Just some random, weird comment that didn't mean anything. Nobody could have guessed the darkness behind those words. By 2:10 a.m., Ensar Gaul was back at a core. The night was pitch black. That hour when the whole world is asleep and the house feels totally peaceful, like everything is fine. From the outside, there wasn't a single hint that their lives were about to be shattered in minutes. Julie and her girl Casey were just chilling in the living room, watching TV. It was a normal, quiet night, the kind where you just whining died. Upstairs, Michaela was passed out in one room with her daughter, and her son was asleep right next door. The house was dead quiet, except for the TV. Ensar creeps into the kitchen, snatches a knife from the drawer, and stares cold, stone-faced focus. Every single step is bringing him closer to the unthinkable. He slips into the bedroom where his wife and daughter were dead to the world. That room should have been their safe zone, but it's where everything turned into a bloodbath. He just starts lunging, stabbing Michaela over and over. It was a sudden, savage blitz in the middle light when they should have been safe, and just like that, the quiet was replaced by pure chaos and screams. Julie and Casey bolt upstairs the second they hear the noise, trying to figure out what's going on. Julie bursts in and sees Ensar pinned on top of Michaela, burying the knife in her neck. It was absolute her neck. She tries to yank him off her, but she loses her footing and wipes out on the floor at the worst possible moment. That's when Ensar turns on her, stabbing her with that same savage energy. He didn't. She took 4 hits, and one of those blades missed a major vein in her lung by a damn hair. Honestly, she survived by a miracle. Casey manages to scramble out of the house, but Julie is trapped. She's crawling for the exit, but collapses right at the bottom of the stairs. She was so close to making it out, but she'd already lost too much blood. Her body just gave out. Then, Ensar Gaul grabs their 3-year-old daughter and vanishes into the gutter. It's sick. He just walks away from the carnage, leaving those people dying behind him. The little girl is with him, having no clue what's happening, but feeling the pure terror of that thing. A neighbor hears the screaming and dials 911 immediately. It was one of those calls where you can hear the raw panic. Pretty soon, the quiet is shattered by Saturday cops and rushing the scene. They rushed Casey to John Radcliffe Hospital, where she eventually pulled through. She was in bad shape, but she's one of the few who actually survived this nightmare. They found Julie curled up, just inches from the front door. She was a heartbeat away from getting out, but she couldn't take that last step. Michaela was still in the bedroom. After that horror show, a massive manhunt for Ensar Gaul kicked. Security cams crawling through the streets with his little girl in his arms. He looked at his arms, which is honestly, to Khan, the creepiest part. He still got the knife on him. Clothes soaked in blood. There was zero doubt about what he'd done. He eventually shows up at the pizza joint where his friend works and yells, "Nobody believed me. Nobody believed me. I stabbed him both." He drops his daughter on the ground and tells his buddy to take care of her. No heart, no concern. Just a cold-blooded order while everything was spiraling out of control. The kid was stuck in the middle of something. She couldn't understand, but she could definitely fear. His buddy does his best to keep the shell-shocked little girl calm while dialing 911. His voice is probably shaking, but he tries to stay focused and keep his head on straight, giving the dispatchers the details while trying to comfort the kid, even though he's losing his own mind from the stress. In those few seconds, he had to move fast and push through the pure shock. While he's roaming the city, Ensar is actually on the phone with his family back in Turkey. It's incredibly disturbing how he's just wandering the streets aimlessly after doing something. He's chatting with his folks like it's just a normal day, acting like everything is totally fine despite them on his hands. Right then, he wasn't trying to hide. He wasn't even in a hurry. He just strolled through town making calls, acting like the night's bloodbath was no big deal. Those phone logs show a chilling side of him. Stone cold, detached, and honestly just plain weird. Security footage catches some random guy asking him for a light, looking like any other Tuesday. It was a 5-second interaction that should have been nothing, but things flipped in an instant. The moment that guy sees the blade in Ensar's hand, he backs off on pure instinct. He clocks the danger and bounces. Then, the cameras catch the cops moving in to take Ensar down. It's over fast, but you can practically feel the adrenaline pumping through the screen. The officers move in tight, knowing exactly who they're rebagging. It all comes down to split-second timing. Then he just tells them, "Yeah, I did but you'll never know why." Detective Inspector Joe Kidman later gave those officers props for bagging him unarmed with serious gups. He said it was a high-stakes play where one wrong move could be made things way bloodier. That kind of police work takes more than just a badge. It takes real inner steel. In the interrogation room, he kept whining about the blood on his clothes like that was the root tragedy. He sounded totally checked out, talking about the massacre like it was just some minor inconvenience. Zero guilt, zero feelings. That ice-cold vibe made his whole act feel way more twisted. Just 3 hours before the hits, He sent a message to his cousin on Facebook. Watch this. Tomorrow, every rag in England's gonna be screaming about the mad wolf who painted them red. The blade's ready and I'm a pro. Later, the medical reports on Julie and Michaela came back. The examiner found he aimed right for the throat and chest. Vital spots meant for a fast kill. Those autopsy results didn't leave any room for a misunderstanding. This was a calculated, savage hit. Every single swing of that knife was meant to be the end. Julie took over 50 hits and Michaela over 40. Those aren't just stats. That's the level of rage you can fathom. You don't do that much damage by accident or just because you lost your cool. It shows he really took his time and leaned into the violence. All this went down in front of their 3-year-old girl, who saw things no kid should ever have to. Meanwhile, their 2-year-old son was in the next room, just a thin wall away from the horror. Thinking about that makes the whole thing feel way heavier. They hit Ensar with double murder and trying to Casey. The rap sheet was straight to the point and pulled no punches. Showed how bad this was. By Tuesday, he was headed to Oxford Court to face the music. When he finally stood before the judge for the first time, he claimed he was innocent, even though the evidence was already painting a pretty dark picture. Come May 2012, the trial kicked off. You could cut the tension in that room with a knife. Everyone knew the details were going to be brutal for the family. It was like reliving their worst night there. His attitude was a total shock. He actually grinned for the paps on his way into court. It wasn't a nervous smirk either. He looked totally chill, even laughing while sitting in the hot seat. No shame, no I'm sorry. Nothing, just a guy who did care he'd ruined so many lives. Seeing him smile while the whole room was in tears was just plain wrong. He claimed he felt trapped and didn't love Michaela, but his track record proved he was in Lemurdu. He stayed in a situation he called hell, which suggests he was getting some sick kick out of it. When he testified about September 4th, he tried to say Julie swung first, and he was just defending himself. The story felt rehearsed. At one point, he grabbed a pen and started miming the stabbing to show how it went. The judge shut that down fast, telling him to drop the pen and quit the creepy act. You could hear a pin drop after that. He kept whining about being forced into the marriage, but it just sounded like he was passing the buck. No guilt, and that self-defense story was thorny. The way Michaela and Julie were cut up went way past any point of simple self-defense. It was nothing but drawn-out, cold-blooded overkill. The detectives and the DA completely trashed his version of events. The blood patterns and the trashed furniture told a whole different tale. Put it all together and he's clearly the predator. Every fact killed his alibi. Relatives were sobbing in their seats while the security tapes played. He's wandering with a blade, totally chill to them. That wasn't just some movie. It was a look at the last seconds before their world ended. The DA said the marriage was trash and he was homesick for Turkey. He saw that, but said it doesn't excuse a total massacre. He called it a senseless bloodbath. The prosecution's words hit like a final hammer. A medic named Richard Rock also stepped up to give his side. He'll never shake the pure agony he saw in Michaela's eyes. That image is stuck in his head forever, a permanent scar from that night. Casey testified about the chaos upstairs. Her low voice hit incredibly heavy. She said facing that courtroom was tougher than the nightmares she fought to bury. May 31st, 2012, they nailed him for 2 murders and an attempt. He got life, 36 years for each kill plus 12 for the attempt, all running at the same time. The clerk read it out like cold facts, but lives were ruined. The judge told him he knew it was intentional. These were nasty, planned out, cold-blooded hits. You keep claiming you were miserable and hated your mother-in-law. I'm not buying for a second that anything she did gives you a pass. You broke this family forever. While the judge spoke, Ensar just sat there smirking. He laughed and mouthed me, while leaving. For the family, nothing is enough. No prison time or judge's speech can bring back what he stole. The massive void he left behind can't be fixed by any court. Mehmet met Julie at 23 and had 12 years with his soulmate. He knew they were perfect together. He stayed cool, but was dying inside. Every word was a struggle, like he was watching his world burn again. He's just glad the jury did by the garbage the defense spewed about Julie. Keeping her reputation clean was the only thing that mattered to him. After the hammer came down, Detective Joe Kidman stepped to the microphones. to dodge the blame, and Cyril tried to drag the victims' names through the mud. That just twisted the knife for the family, who sat through every hearing. He was blunt and straight to the point, just laying out the tragic facts. Even with their hearts in pieces, they stayed pure class. That said everything. You could feel the heavy air and the raw grit of the survivors. September 4th was a bomb that's still going off today. Families were split into before and after. That kind of H never dies. It doesn't just vanish, it just becomes part of every single thought. Met said he's empty. The kids lost everyone. He took everything from me. I never knew they were the only reason I was even breathing. This story isn't just a crime, it's a warning we can't afford to ignore. Michaela was a loving mother. Julie was her rock, and in one single night, a man's unchecked raped them off the face of the earth. Domestic violence rarely starts with a knife. It starts with control, telling you where to go, who to go, what to go. It starts with 26 missed calls in a single night. It starts with the look in someone's eyes that makes your stomach drop. We have to stop treating those red flags like they're nothing, because for Michaela, every ignored warning sign was a step closer to that door. If someone in your life is being isolated, controlled, or broken down piece by piece, say something. Wait, don't look away. Love should never feel like a prison. Real love doesn't drain your bank account, silence your voice, or make you feel it to fear who they're supposed to protect you. 2 children lost their mother and grandmother on the same night. They grew up carrying away the child should they have to carry. That's the real cost of silence. That's what happens when the warning signs are dismissed, minimized, or explained away one too many times. If you're in a relationship that scares you, reach out to a friend, a hotline, anyone. You are worth saving. Life matters. And if you're on the outside looking in, be the person who steps up. You might be the only lifeline someone has left. Michaela deserved better. Julie deserved better. Let their story be the reason someone else gets a different ending.